Hey guys, it's Lauren and welcome back to my channel. This video is a sort of a follow-up. It can work on its own, but it's also the follow-up video to a video that I did about what it's like living with social anxiety. And now I'm going to talk about some things that help me manage my own social anxiety and hopefully can help you as well. So let's jump right into it. First of all, one thing that really helps me a lot is approaching things, especially social interactions, with a mindset of imperfection. So definitely with anxiety as a whole, I believe, and especially social anxiety, it's really easy to, well, one of the main problems is having this perfectionist mindset, right? So at least for me, any kind of social interaction is held, I hold myself to very high standards, right? So I instantly critique myself and assume that the situation has to go perfectly. I have to look a certain way, I have to act a certain way, or I'm just totally weird, or people are going to judge me, and that causes a lot of anxiety because obviously, if you are setting yourself to such a horribly high standard and assuming that things have to go completely perfectly, anything below that is not going to be good enough and you're going to judge yourself. So I like to go into anything thinking, I'm not perfect, it's okay, I don't need to be perfect, nobody is perfect in life, and it's okay if I make mistakes. And I'm going to accept the fact that I'm imperfect and the fact that it's okay if something goes wrong or something feels awkward or something feels uncomfortable. And that's just part of life, and that's part of my process for helping myself. So I go in with a mindset like that. My second tip would be to slow down. So anxiety is up here, right? It's like, for me, in my mind, it's fast. It's fast thoughts, it's fast reactions, it's tenseness, it's tightness, it's can't breathe, it's can't get a deep breath. So reminding myself to just slow down is so powerful. And especially when I'm in a social situation, my mind is going a million miles an hour, and one of the symptoms of being socially anxious around people is I start talking really, really fast, or I want the situation to go fast. I want to be over with quickly. And one example I can think of is when I go in to pick up packages that I get. The people in the office are super nice, they're super sweet, but for some reason, I'm not very good with what's it called? I'm not very good with like day-to-day talk, like small talk. That's what it is. God, I can't think today. I'm not good with small talk. I find it quite awkward a lot of the time. I find it kind of unnecessary, but also necessary because you want to be polite, you want to be kind to people. And so anytime I have to be in some kind of situation where it's quick, I'm just coming in to get a package real quick, and I have to talk to somebody, I just never really feel like I fit in the flow of the conversation, or it never quite goes right, and I end up stumbling over my words or saying something stupid. And so a lot of time I'm just wanting to get the situation over with as quickly as possible and get out of there. And while, that makes me feel better, it's not really helping me. It just ends up causes me to judge myself more and to not really be present. So slowing down is very important. So anytime that I'm going to be in a social situation, I remind myself to slow down. I remind myself to slow down my breathing, to just actually take a breath, inhale and exhale, and to just kind of focus on being in the moment, and whatever comes with that, just letting it be. If I feel uncomfortable, mentally or physically, I just let that happen. I just try to actually focus on what I'm saying to the other person. I actually try to hear what the other person is saying and give myself time to respond without feeling like I have to respond like that. And that has really helped me a lot to just kind of fall into the moment and get out of my head, get out of the anxious thoughts that are happening in my head, and be more present. And in that, it really brings me back to that imperfectionist mindset, being okay with imperfection as well. So that's a really helpful tip. That would be number 2. Now, number 3 is perhaps a little bit harder. Number 3 is practice facing your fears. This has been, understandably, right, one of the hardest things about overcoming social anxiety, because when you are so uncomfortable in social situations, often that comes along with a lot of physical symptoms. Maybe your hands shake, maybe you start sweating, maybe you start blushing, which is one of the hardest ones that I've had to deal with throughout my life. Maybe you stumble over your words, maybe you are afraid to make eye contact with somebody, or you just are beating yourself up the entire time. So it's understandable that someone with social anxiety would really have a hard time practicing being in front of people, because you have to go through those symptoms, and your natural instinct as a human being is to avoid those situations because it makes you feel better. It gets rid of that discomfort. And who wants to live in discomfort their entire lives, right? But what I have found is that the more that I actually decide that I'm going to practice being in certain situations that make me uncomfortable, the more that I put myself in those situations in a way that works for me, with, starting small usually is what it is, what happens, the more my ability to cope with the symptoms and to actually get more comfortable around people, it does improve. And I think that's really important to remember, because why do you practice anything? We practice it to get better, right? And with almost anything, the more you practice, the better you do get. So it's not always going to be so uncomfortable to expose yourself to these types of situations. I have a blog post on my website. You can search it on moderndayohm.com, and I'll link to it below. But I talked about how I spent a whole month facing my social anxiety head on. And what I did was I gave myself little challenges. So anything that I would normally avoid completely or do online or use an app for, I did it in person or over the phone, depending on what I was able to do. So that was things like ordering a Starbucks drink in person instead of using that wonderful, wonderful app. It would be, going inside to check out a library book instead of using the drop-off after hours. So I would actually have to go in, face a person, tell them I'm dropping off these books, or navigate that weird situation where they're at the counter, but you don't really have to talk to them to drop off the book, but you don't know if they're going to say like hi to you or if you just say hi back. These are the type of things that you deal with when you have social anxiety that other people probably don't even think about. Little things like that. Ordering food to go, over the phone instead of using their website. And just starting with little bitty things like that really helped me to just get more comfortable with the feeling of discomfort, and also realizing that when I did these things, I didn't die. I didn't, become a horribly crumpled human being. I didn't feel worse about myself. In fact, I actually started to feel better about myself because I was doing these challenges, and again, I was approaching them with a mindset of, this might not go perfectly, I might feel like an idiot, or I might do something that makes me feel uncomfortable, and also slowing down. And when I did that, I started to gain more confidence because I was like, okay, I can do this. Things went okay. And I also discovered that I noticed more kindred spirits. I noticed other people who may have also had social anxiety or just felt kind of awkward in social situations. And I would not have noticed that before because I was so busy judging myself that I didn't realize that other people are struggling with this too, and are in fact not even thinking about how I'm acting, and probably not even caring. And if they do, it's just for a moment. They're not going to spend their whole day thinking about it or deciding that I am a awful person or this super awkward weirdo. So practicing facing your fears, if you can think of, maybe make a list or just think of the top few things, situations that are the worst for your social anxiety, that make you the most socially anxious and are, actually really affect your day to day and make things hard for you, if you can think of those and then think of small little ways that you can challenge yourself each day, or at least, a few times a week, to kind of confront those fears and just put yourself through them, even if it's just for a second, that can really help you gain more confidence and become more in tune with your thoughts, and also realizing that you can approach these situations and you can get through them, and you can live with your social anxiety and improve it and feel that discomfort, and that it can get better. So tip number 4 is to challenge your thinking. So anxiety causes the mind to go to some very, very creative and very crazy places. For me, I assume that if I say something dumb, or if I act weird at all, or I don't fit with the flow of a conversation with somebody, that people are going to see me as a weirdo, a failure. I get the feeling that life will be over, or that I'm just like, I'm hopeless, like there's nothing I can do, which sounds so freaking dramatic, but it's how my brain thinks. It's how it works. So that's how it is. And so the way that I deal with that is by challenging those thoughts, right? Not judging yourself for having them, but just going through them. So talk out loud to yourself, when you're alone, or if you're not alone, if you can't be alone, maybe write it down. The thought process, it's better to talk. I think it's better to speak it out loud, but if you have to write it down, that works too. It's just easier for me personally to talk about it. So choose a specific type of situation, when you're socially anxious, and talk through what you think in that situation. What is going through your head? What are you thinking when you have that interaction with somebody? Even if it sounds completely crazy when you say it out loud, talk yourself through it and be like, okay, these are the thoughts that I'm having. There's no judgment here. This is just what I'm thinking. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm an awful human, or I'm so awkward, or people hate me, or I'm never gonna get a date, or I'm never going to be a productive human, because I did this and this and this, or whatever. And you might not even recognize these thoughts yet. I know that I didn't for a long time. I just knew I felt bad. So actually slowing down to work through those thoughts really helped me recognize what I was thinking about myself, some really negative things, and helped me then challenge those thoughts, which is what I want you to do next. After you talk about those thoughts out loud, challenge them. Are they really what you think they are? Is that really the case? Is life really going to be over? Are you really the most awkward, weird human being on the earth? Are people really going to hate you? Are you really rejected just because you did something that may have seemed awkward? Did people actually really notice? Did people actually really care? And what is so bad about what you fear? If you blush in a group of people when you're talking about something that shouldn't be embarrassing, is it actually the end of the world? Are people actually going to spend the rest of their day thinking about how weird you are? Or are they just going to move on from it and not really think anything about it and worry about themselves more? So challenge those thoughts, and you'll often realize just how extreme they can be and how much they're actually not in line with reality. And just to go off of that, remember that nothing bad is actually going to happen. Just like with anxiety, when you're having a panic attack, recognizing that, okay, this is a panic attack. I'm not having a heart attack. I'm not actually going to die. It's the same type of thing with social anxiety, right? Realizing that, fearing rejection, or, we have physical symptoms like blushing, racing heart palpitations, shaking, anything like that. It can feel like things are really, really bad, but they're not actually as bad as we think. They're going to be okay. The world's not going to hate you. You're not going to die. Think about the people that you have in your life who do love you unconditionally, and know that this is something that This is social anxiety. This is a mental issue. This is something that you struggle with, and that's fine. And the fact that you're even watching this video or, thinking of ways to help yourself, that is amazing. That's wonderful. And you should be commended for that. And, instead of once you faced a fear, even at the smallest thing, once you get back in your car or you walk out of the situation, just take a moment to congratulate yourself for facing this situation instead of immediately going to criticizing your performance and pointing out things that went wrong or that were weird. Try to stop that in its tracks and just instead be like, good for me for doing that. Or, something else that went well, something, maybe it was a good interaction, or you made somebody laugh, or I don't know, anything else. Just point that out to yourself, because our brains are pretty much wired to look for the negative first. It was a survival technique back when we needed to always look for danger, but now we don't need to. So start training your brain to notice the positives in the situation and congratulate yourself for doing it. And the final tip that I have, and then I will end this video, is remember that sometimes you will take a few steps backwards. Maybe even it feels like many steps backwards. Maybe even feels like you are completely starting over, and that is okay. And I also want to mention that you're not starting over. I have moments, I've mentioned before, I work from home, so I'm quite isolated a lot of the time from people. So if it's been a long time since I've gone out that often, I can feel like it's hard again for me to be in front of people, and I start having those weird symptoms again that I used to have, or it just feels like I'm just totally a hermit again. But I find that that's actually not the case, and the progress that I've made, it's for a lifetime. It's overall. So we're all working on ourselves all the time, right? So we're never going to be completely perfect. We're never going to feel like we're exactly who we want to be. I mean, I really think that everyone's a work in progress, right? So even if you have a particularly uncomfortable situation or scary situation and your social anxiety just goes full blown again, even if you feel like you're making progress, it doesn't mean that you are starting over, that you're a failure, that you're even going to have to start over completely again, because you have social anxiety. It's one of your life struggles. It's one of the things you deal with. If somebody has depression, it's something they deal with. If somebody has ADHD, also me, it's something I have to, I have every day. It's something that I live with. It's fine. We can work on it. We can do things to help ourselves feel comfortable in this world and work through the mental issues that we face and, live our lives being okay with that. And the more that we can practice self-kindness, practice daily, working on the things that cause us discomfort and make us feel isolated in this world, and the more that we can approach it with an imperfection mentality, the more you will continue progressing, the more you will help improve your attitude towards social anxiety and towards yourself, and the more you will just feel accomplished and know that we're all different. We all have something that we're struggling with, and this just happens to be your thing, one of your things. And it doesn't define you, but it is part of, it's something in your brain. No matter how you think that it may have started, if it was situational, if it was nature or nurture, it's just something that is different than some other people, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy life and be a part of it and, be one of the beautiful colors of humanity, right? Of what we bring to this world. So yeah, it's all going to be okay, and you can work through this, and, social anxiety can be a beautiful thing in some ways too, which sounds weird, and I would not have said that 10 years ago, or even maybe 2 years ago. But, in some ways it's made me more empathetic towards people and able to realize when other people might be dealing with this too, and remember that I'm not alone. So those are my tips. I'm going to stop before I start rambling completely and this video gets to be like an hour long. But I hope you found this helpful. If you are somebody who struggles with social anxiety or has someone in your life who does, and you found these helpful, let me know. Feel free to leave a comment below. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. And if there's anything else you want me to talk about, leave a comment down below, let me know. And until then, I hope you have a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.